Hi, welcome to How to D&D. My name is Fred Wheeler and today I have a guest with me, John Shackle.
Hello!
So John Shackle is going to help me do a review on the Dungeons & Dragons 5e adventure book, Tales from the Yawning Portal. Now this was released, about 3 months ago or a little bit longer?
About 4 or 5 actually.
4 or 5
In
now?
America, remember, it took a while to get here.
That's right, we're in New Zealand, everything takes a lot longer. Look, you can pick this up from your game store usually. There should be more than a few copies in your game store, unless of course they've sold out, which I doubt. You can buy it from the book depository, it's pretty cheap. Free shipping if you're anywhere else in the world other than the North America. And if you're in North America, then of course you're probably going to be using somewhere like Amazon. And I have an Amazon affiliate link in the description which you can click on if you feel like purchasing this product after this review. Now, this particular adventure is a collection of some of the toughest and most famous dungeons that have ever been created in the game for Dungeons & Dragons right across the ages, pretty much.
Yep.
So I'm going to flip this over so you can have a look. It's got great cover art, as you can see. So the adventures that we are provided with is Against the Giants, Dead and Thay, The Forge of Fury, The Hidden Shrine of Timochen, I think that's right.
Yeah.
Then the Tomb of Horus, very famous location.
Yay.
And White Plume Mountain, which I'm really pleased I've redone because I've always wanted to run White Plume Mountain, and at one point you just couldn't get a copy of it easily anywhere, and now it's been released for Dungeons & Dragons 5e.
Yes. You also forgot the Sunless Citadel, Fred.
The Sunless Citadel, yes, and this particular adventure is supposed to be one of the better adventures that have ever been released for Dungeons & Dragons 3.5, was it? I believe it was.
Wow, yeah, that's going back a bit, yeah.
It is going back quite a long time. So let's have a look. This will set you back pretty much the same price as all the other adventure books. It's $50, but on Amazon you're probably paying a lot less. It's in the sort of the $30 range, really. I'll just flick through here so you can have a quick look. This is just our first impression. I haven't actually played any of these adventures or run any of these adventures. I'm just giving you my first impression. There is a disclaimer. The disclaimer, I wouldn't say they're all that great nowadays. They seem to be dropping in quality, not quite as funny as they used to be. And it basically just says, do you really need a disclaimer to tell you that it's not our fault that your character died because you decided to climb down into a monster-infested, trap-filled hole in the ground? Well, no, we don't. You don't need to tell us anything. So we get a contents page that pretty much highlights everything that we will need to know, all the different adventures. There's an appendix for magic items, there's an appendix for creatures as well that you would use in the adventure, because there's some sort of custom specialised monsters that you can't find in the monster manual.
Especially for the higher level adventures.
Yeah, and also includes I suppose what is essentially a semi kind of index for the maps, so you can find the maps.
Yeah.
But this particular book does not have an index, as most of the adventures don't, which I still feel is a shame. But we'll keep going.
Well, if it was one whole adventure, I could understand, but it is like 7 mini adventures.
Which means it's not quite so important to have something like that. Okay, so you get an introduction about how to use the book, running the adventures. It talks a little bit about the Yawning Portal and the history of the Yawning Portal, because essentially the Yawning Portal is been built over an old tower that was utilised by a particular mad wizard called Blackstaff. Halastair Blackstaff, I believe his name is. It gives you a little bit of information on some of the curious items you might find in the Yawning Portal. There's a chart and you can roll them up and present them. Gives you information on the typical things that might take place in that location. A whole bunch of really poor adventure seeds. Pretty standard fare for starting out your story if you want to use them. I don't really think that was good enough for this particular adventure. I really felt like they needed to have a lot more tied in to help connect the stories together and get the players invested, and this is not enough. Not really.
No.
And as you'll see as we go through, a lot of the adventures don't provide you with an adventure hook. I think the first 2 adventures provide you with adventure hooks, and the rest there's no adventure hook whatsoever.
No, this is where I will interject here. If you do play the adventures on Dungeons and Dragons, the expeditions or whatever they're called now, they are actually what the hooks are for the main adventures. They're like set it up for the big adventures.
Oh, okay.
So that helps a little bit, especially if you're behind in XP and all that as well. So
But that's if you're playing through the Dungeons and Dragons Adventures League.
it doesn't need to be Adventures League. If you can buy the adventures for a very low price, I might say, and just play them as homebrew if you want.
You can download those from the Dungeon Masters Guild.
Yes.
Yep. Okay, so there's a lot of information on Durin, and Durin is actually, this Durin is the original Durin. Somehow Durin has returned, and there's a whole lot of information on his personality and how you might run that character, and some of the Denzians or patrons that you would find in the Yawning Portal. One of the first things I'm going to say about this is, we're dealing with the Yawning Portal, but the adventures that we are provided with have nothing to do with...
The Yawning Portal.
No, they've got nothing to do with it.
No.
There's nothing to do with what's down the well. Nothing to do with Undermountain.
Shh. First rule, we don't speak about the well.
Well, yeah, we're going to speak about the well. We're going to speak about the well. I don't quite understand why we had a jumping point, which is the Yawning Portal, and the adventure isn't about...
The Undermountain!
Where is that? What happened? Okay, alright. I've had my wine. I'm
No,
moving
don't
on.
worry. A lot of us were like, Yawning Portal. Yay, Undermountain. Ah.
No Undermountain.
No.
Okay, look. Great art. The full page art in this book is always really impressive, and this is really good too. The first one is the Sunless Sigil, which provides you with an adventure sort of synopsis or background, how to run it, how to place it in different... All the adventures have a location sidebar.
Yeah.
So you can place it in the Forgotten Realms, or Dragonlance, Eberron, Greyhawk, because a lot of the adventures were originally run in that location, so it makes sense to actually have information on running it in Greyhawk, does it not? Yep. And this particular adventure is about a strange exotic fruit, an enchanted fruit that comes from the Golthus tree, I believe.
Yeah.
And they are supposed to find out what's the story with this particular fruit, because it has benefits.
Well, that's one hook, which is interesting, because another hook is, oh, there's an adventuring party that's gone missing, can you please find them for us?
Yep.
And that's the other hook.
Yep. Now this particular adventure actually comes with 3 hooks tied in on this page here. I believe it is page 10, and it goes over, and the best one, I have to say, would have to be solving a mystery, and it's basically around utilising goblins who are trading this exotic magical fruit.
Yes.
Now all of the adventures give you a little sidebar, which I feel takes up an awful lot of space, about the original adventures, where they came from.
Which is nice, because some people, especially if you're very new to D&D, you'd like to know where the original adventures came from.
Yeah, so you could look them up, but I do feel like it's sort of used a lot of space, and I'll explain as I go why I feel like when they use that space, they've had to chop and cut down some of the other information that would have been more important. Okay, there is plenty of information in here. Here's the first problem that I noticed with the first map. It's quite a large map, and it's very, very small, because they haven't allowed a full page to actually lay it out.
No, and that's one thing that disappoints me, because for a DM's point of view, you want a full-blown map so that you can print out, and it makes it a lot easier for you to draw it out, or even to give players if they find stuff like that.
Yeah, and I feel exactly the same way. It's one of the things that's really important to me is maps that the right size that I can use. And my eyes are getting older. I can't deal with really small things. I need stuff to be bigger for me. And even if I photocopy it and blow it up, it's not going to look very good. Yeah, so it needs to be, it really should have been a lot bigger. It gives you the same standard format. You get headers for all your locations, everything, all of the read out text is in red, monsters are highlighted in bold.
Yep.
It's well formatted, so it's easy to run. And this adventure has a range of monsters, including a wormling dragon. There's a couple of NPCs that are quite unusual. They're not just your standard humans.
No, as I said, for a level 1 to 3 adventure, it is well thought out. It's got the traps that can cause problems. It's got the creatures that cause problems. It has ways where you can get out of combat if you think it properly. As I said, it's a well put together adventure.
Yeah, and there is definitely a wormling in here. that you'll have to contend with at some point. This particular location is actually revolves mostly around goblins, but there are a few kobolds as well.
Yes.
And it's absolutely full of traps and interesting locations. See, this is the sort of map I'm talking about. This is a full page. It's easy to look at, and I can actually photocopy this and use it. And surprisingly, there aren't that many markers on it that I need to worry about, so I could probably give it to my players when I need to. Yeah, so that's one of the things I thought was really good. It's short enough that you can probably prepare it within a couple of hours, or maybe a day. I like half-page artwork. It's nice.
Just be prepared that, especially for our group, that when we played through it, you die in the first couple of combats because rats are nasty little buggers.
Yeah. Now, every adventure, even though you have the same layout, gives you an aftermath. How things are going to sort of finish up, which is like your conclusion, and it gives you a little bit of information on the Gulfus tree, which you're hopefully going to destroy because these are bad things.
Yeah, hopefully.
Hopefully. Alright, the next adventure is the Forge of Fury, and this revolves around the adventurers going and finding specialised weapons. There's supposed to be a location that they had to hunt down that was created by the dwarves.
Or, as I said, get rid of bandits, and you know they're in the area, and you end up finding the place where they are, and it ends up being this place.
Yeah. And as I said, it gives you the same sort of... This particular one actually does give you a hook. It's only one hook, but it does give you some information. And then you get your standard format of location maps. And as you can see, I don't have a problem with this map. That's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. This map I just feel is a little bit too small and probably should have been facing the other way, because it isn't. It's big enough that it warranted a whole page. John, you're ready to say something. I still feel like it's too small.
No, you're fine.
Yeah. And we're going to keep flicking through here.
Yeah. This one is a little bit harder. If you have the right group composition, you should be fine, but there are areas that you will find to be somewhat challenging.
Yeah. Another location, still I feel like that should have been blown up and a lot bigger than it is.
This one is a multi-layered dungeon, so be prepared for having a good couple of whacks with these.
And there's a variety of monsters in this particular location, right?
It starts from orcs to lizard folk, lizard folk kind of things, Draugr, you've got some undead. And it all pretty much comes down to, if you're playing it properly, you find out that there's a nasty little dragon at the bottom, and most adventurers go, "Ooh, dragon, treasure, let's go kill it."
Which is why we have a picture of a dragon. And it goes over the aftermath. The next one is the Hidden Shrine of Timochin. I think that's how it's pronounced. Now, I haven't ever really run this adventure or played in this adventure, but it's pretty famous. It's well known. And what I don't understand is how come this got such 2-page layout for its map? 2-page layout and the other ones didn't. It doesn't make any sense.
Which is funny because this is one of the shorter adventures in the whole book.
Yeah, you could probably prepare it reasonably quickly. It's got a few random encounters. And this has got an Aztecian feel to it.
Yeah, and you'll be facing lots of snake people and stuff like that as well.
So, Yanti?
Yanti, yeah.
Yeah. There's also, I believe, a game that you can play in here. It's sort of like the old mine game through a ball that gets thrown through a hoop of some kind.
I'll have to take your word for it. This is the only adventure I haven't actually run through.
Yeah. I believe this adventure is renowned for having a undead centaur in the adventure that you have to either battle, probably just battle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do know that the bottom layer is a bit of a nasty surprise for people if they're not expecting it.
Yeah. And there's some really unusual traps and monsters and creatures in this, so you should be quite surprised and pleased by what you come across. And
also, interestingly enough, they introduced cursed magical items.
Here we go. Here's the picture. I wish it was like a half-page picture, but this is the undead centaur that is featured in this adventure.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And we get a few other images. And then we're on to White Plume Mountain.
Yay!
Now, I'm pretty sure this, I feel like this is not necessarily original art. I feel like it might be taken from old artwork and upgraded, but they've taken the same feel.
Yeah.
Because I think I've seen this somewhere else before. But White Plume Mountain is really, it's like a fun house dungeon, really.
Oh yes.
It is really designed to just, it was never designed to be a standalone adventure that made sense. And I believe this adventure revolves around finding 3 magical items.
And getting out alive.
It's got some great artwork in it, and most of the maps in this particular section I'm pretty sure are actually the right size for what you need.
Yeah.
They're not overly small or weird, and you've got images big enough to you can actually show your players. And as you can see, it's very, very short. It would not take much to prepare that at all. The Dead and Fae is another story. Now, I know John knows a lot about this. I've played a little bit of the Doom Vault, and the Doom Vault is massive. And John can go over the Dead and Fae.
Yeah. See, here we go. The map of the whole area on one page. It is nowhere near big enough for what it is.
It needed to be a whole poster pull-out map.
Double-sided at least, yeah.
Yeah, that's what it originally was. It was a pull-out map.
Yeah.
It was massive. It's so complicated, the whole area. You can't get to some sections without having certain items to get into a certain location.
Yeah. It is what we call a slugfest. You literally have a race against time to do everything and try not die and try and get all the missions, to succeed.
Yeah. One of the other things I will say, as you go through here, there's I think like 100 locations, and each part of the Doom Vault is split up into sections. And they usually have a map. It's quite a small one that sort of highlights that area of the map and how it works. So, because otherwise it'd be quite confusing about where you can actually go.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I think that's one of the biggest problems. I don't feel like this particular adventure is suitable for a new dungeon master.
No, but pretty much by this stage they should be tier 2, tier 3. So you should roughly be knowing a little bit about it by now.
Yeah, but to be fair though, in terms of preparation, there's a lot of preparation.
Oh yeah, no, this one. I'd have to say the next 3 adventures are a lot of prep work.
Yeah. And also too, it's complicated. It's really, really complicated. There's nothing simple about it.
Not this one, no.
No, it is definitely for advanced dungeon masters. It's not really suitable if you're starting out for the first time.
Yeah.
Even if your player's the right level, it won't matter. You've got to sort of navigate through this thing and actually be able to work it.
Yeah, you do have to do a lot of prep work for this because you don't know where the players or what the players want to do, and if you think they're going to do one direction and they go off in another direction, means you have to read up a whole lot.
Yeah, and this adventure revolves around the Dead and Fae. That means you're dealing with red wizards.
Yes, or actually you're dealing with Sazin something or other, the Lich. What you're trying to do is you're trying to weaken his power so the red wizards can gain a bit more power, because in this one the red wizards are the good guys. I know that sounds wrong, but go figure.
Well, but that particular lich is actually quite feared by the red wizards to a large extent, and there is a phylactery vault that you will get to enter, and a little bit of information on the aftermath. Next we have Against the Giants, which is actually made up of 3 adventures revolving around hill giants, fire giants, and is it frost giants?
Yep.
It is, yep. I thought so. I haven't actually played or run this adventure, but I know a little bit about it. It has the Giant's Bag content table. I don't know if it's exactly the same one from the Storm King's Thunder book. It might be.
Maybe.
But I haven't actually checked that myself. It's got good maps in it. It's one of the things I noticed. The style has changed, but it's full page.
Fred, I interject. You have actually run part of this before.
I have.
Yes, you have. I will quickly go back to said map.
Yes.
Does that not look familiar to you?
Ah, Dungeons and Dragons 4E.
Yes.
It doesn't look exactly the same. Oh, yes, it is. It might well be.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I didn't realise.
Yes, Captain Incognito strikes again.
Yeah, there's a lot of really nice artwork. As I said, the maps are pretty impressive. and you're dealing with 3 locations
Yes.
really, and
Which you don't need to do all of them. You can just do some of them if you really want.
yeah. So, which means because it's 3 locations, and each location is actually not that big. I mean, combined it's big,
Yes.
but you still don't have.
Well, no, actually, I would say the areas are actually quite large because the areas for they are, and you're fighting giants, so the area has to be big.
Yeah.
But the 3 combined makes it a mega adventure.
Yeah.
So you don't have to do all 3. You can just pick and choose if you really need to.
Yeah.
That's the good thing about this book is you don't have to run all of the adventures at the same time. You can pick and choose. You can drop out and do something else, and then come back to this later on.
Yeah, and the other thing too is because the sections that you'll be dealing with aren't too long as a general rule. Not all of them are. I think the last one's a bit long, but you can prepare that section pretty easily.
Yeah.
Deal with that, and then when you're ready, you can prep the next one and go from there. So yeah, it's a pretty good adventure. I think it's well worth your effort. See, the maps are really well done.
Yeah.
Even if the style seems to have changed. I feel like a different artist has come in, or a different cartographer has been involved in creating these.
That could be the case.
I think that has actually probably taken place because it's not consistent right throughout the entire book.
No.
No. So this is quite a long section.
Yeah,
because
and then
there's
it comes down to the last adventure.
So this is the legendary Tomb of Horus, which has been redone for Dungeons and Dragons 5e, and you're going to be dealing with whom?
Akarak!
That's right. Serarak, I thought it was, or was it Akarak?
Akarak.
Akarak.
Begins with A.
Yeah. So the dungeon map itself is really good. It's actually not a particularly large adventure, so shouldn't be too
But
difficult.
very deadly.
Yeah, you do not want to be throwing your players into this thing unless they're a high level and pretty skilled.
Well, it does say that this part is for over level 10 or 11, I think.
Yeah.
So they definitely need to be high level.
Yeah, need to be high level, and you probably need to be fairly skilled to get through this as well.
Yes, or at least have a bunch of rogues.
Fair enough. Yep. And it's quite an unusual story. So that's it. There's nothing more to that. That adventure comes to an end. So it's got about 31 locations, and then you finish up.
But if you manage to... 33. Yeah.
33. Yeah.
But if you manage to successfully pass it, good luck to you.
Well done, yes. And it is full of very deadly traps.
Oh, yes. So it has a magical items section, which is really helpful because especially there's a lot of random items in there that aren't in the DMG.
Yep.
And then it also has a extended monster manual for new stuff as well.
Yeah, and a lot of these monsters are, I wouldn't say they're necessarily fantastic, but there's a few that are quite interesting, particularly the ones that are the Kelpie. So I've always wanted to have a stat block for a Kelpie, and never had it when I was running the Island of Dread. Would have been really helpful. And I believe the Undead Centaur is in here as well, and Ooze Master. Yeah, so some new additional monsters that you probably haven't seen before, and a few sorcerers and wizards. And we're almost to the end. Is there anything what did you think of this book, John?
I think for an experienced DM, this is great for pick and choose adventures for your players.
Yeah.
It's really nice for the adventure side of things, but if they was going to do that, they should have called it something different. But by putting it Tales from the Yawning Portal, you automatically, if you're an old school D&D player, you think, sweet, Undermountain.
Yeah, I was thinking exactly the same thing. I wasn't terribly happy with this product coming out. From what I've seen, I feel like I would probably not use all the adventures. I would probably pull some of the ones that I want out and use just the bits and pieces that I need. And it's reasonably self-contained, and short of the Dead and Thay, Against the Giants, and really those are the only two. Those are really big ones.
Yeah.
The others are short enough that you can probably put them together pretty quick.
Forge of Fury was probably another one that is, because it is multi-layered, is a bit of a long one, but you can actually run through that pretty quickly if you know what to do and you can do it the right way.
Yeah. So look, that's everything we have on Tales from the Yawning Portal. So if you found this video helpful or informative, please share, like and subscribe. if you haven't done so already. Look, if you want to buy this, you can probably get it from your game store. You can definitely get it from the book depository, and you can also get it from Amazon, and I have an Amazon affiliate link in the description if you want to purchase this book. And if you have any questions about Tales from the Yawning Portal, put them in the comments, or if you have anything to share, by all means share that with somebody in the comments so that we know a little bit more about Tales from the Yawning Portal. I know a lot of people are still thinking about buying this, and maybe this has been enough information to change their mind or make that decision. And till next time,
Keep rolling those 20s.